Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of Talking Cardboard. As always, my name is Cory, and this is episode number 3 of What We're Playing. Alright, like I said, this is episode number 3 of What We Are Playing, but I am alone. I am not joined by any of the other members of the Talking Cardboard crew today because during our last game of Battlestar Galactica, they were all Cylons and I had to let them out of the airlock into space, and I am the last human standing, so that is just how it's going to be. So let's get right into some of the games that we have been playing over the last couple of weeks, starting with Heaven and Ale. Yes, that is right. We got Heaven and Ale to the table again. A fantastic game, like always. Heaven and Ale, one of my favorites of all time. An extremely dry Euro, but one that's got kind of a fun theme to it, where you are sending out these monks around on your player board, as well as trying to grow some ingredients to have them brew beer. And the better you can brew the beer with these monks, the more points you score at the end of the game. Whoever has the most points wins. But why this game is so unique and cool is that it mixes tile placement on your own board with a really cool way of gathering tiles on the main board. In this game, it is a rondel style action wheel where you've got these different tiles laid out on the action track. You can go as far as you want on the track to pick up whatever tile you want. As soon as you pick up that tile, you have to pay for it and place it on your board. But what's unique about that, and really tough and makes for very tough decisions, is that once you get to a spot on the track, you cannot go back to gather any tiles that you had passed previously. So you have to be very careful. It's kind of a push your luck where you are trying to gather as many of the best tiles as you can, but if you think somebody's going to jump way ahead and grab one of the really high value tiles before you, you might have to skip some of the tiles that you really wanted just to get to that tile before they do. So really cool. Very low scoring game, very tight money wise. The money is just very tight in this game. So if you like a really strategic, crunchy Euro tile placement game with that cool mechanism with the rondel, jumping ahead as far as you want to, really, to grab whatever tiles you want, mixed in with, the decision making is very punishing, then Heaven and Ale is for you. Definitely one that I still recommend to this day, and one that you should give a try. Moving on to the next game, I'll just kind of throw this one over here. Next game we got to the table a couple weeks back was In the Hall of the Mountain King. In the Hall of the Mountain King was a huge surprise hit for me. I picked up this game originally because of, it's kind of got a troll, kind of a neat theme wrapped around it, but really the theme is not what appealed to me the most. What appealed to me the most in this game is the whole cascading element to the different card play in this game. And what I mean by that is that in this game, you are trying to gather resources in a unique way, which I'll get into in a second, to ultimately buy tunnel tiles where you can tunnel through this mountain. And the deeper you go into the mountain, the better and higher points you can score by getting closer and closer to the center of the mountain. And all in the while, you are also digging tunnels to gather additional resources, almost like the free bonus resources that you can get if you dig into certain spots within the tunnel. So it's kind of got like a dug feel to it as well, which is kind of neat. And you can build up pedestals and put these statues on top of pedestals in different areas, and that's where the theme kind of gets a little bit messy, but it's really kind of neat to try to build out these different tunnels, and you can create rooms inside these tunnels for victory points, and also put statues on top of pedestals in different areas. And it's got to be in specific areas that are required based on how far into the mountain you've gone for either low or high or middle scoring victory points in the game, depending on the variable layout of the victory point goals in the game. So it's got a lot going on in the game, but like I said, to kind of circle back to how you get resources in this game, that is my favorite part of it, where you are purchasing these troll cards that you place down in front of you in a pyramid shape. When you place a troll card down, you not only get the resources from the card you just bought and placed, but you also get resources from the trolls that are attached to it underneath that card down the pyramid. So it's got a cascading effect from top to bottom, from the top troll down to the bottom troll. So it's got a really cool mechanism where yes, they cascade and generate resources down the pyramid, but if you've already got resources on those troll cards, they've already gathered them for you in a previous round, you don't get to then trigger those resources again. So it's got a balancing strategy to it where you are trying to use as many of the resources you can off of these troll cards as quickly as you can, but not too quick because you still want it to be beneficial for the different goals and victory points you are going after, but fast enough to where you're getting them off the cards for when you play your next troll resource card on top of it to then have everything, including that card, but everything underneath it trigger resources as well. So that is really cool on when to use resources, when not to use resources, when to buy a troll and have it cascade for a whole boatload of additional resources, and when not to, and how far into the mountain to dig or to get in somebody else's way because people can't connect their tunnels with your tunnels. So you can actually block people off from different sections of the mountain and that sort of thing. So really, really neat. In the Hall of the Mountain King, I did back Fall of the Mountain King, which is a prequel of sorts game that is coming out from Burnt Island Games here soon as well. The Kickstarter just got funded. I'm really excited about that. Completely different than this game. It's going to have some area control and some other unique things to it, which I'm very excited about, but Burnt Island Games has been really impressive to me, and this game was definitely a shot out of left field that I didn't really necessarily know if I would enjoy. Like I said, I just bought it based off of that one cascading mechanism that I had heard about, and it really paid off in this game. So really, really loving it. And then on to the next game. I actually just played a 2-player game of it with just me and my wife. It is the new Saban's Power Rangers deck building game. This deck building game, it's I tell you what, my wife and I really, really, really enjoyed this game a lot, but coming from me, not necessarily my wife's opinion, she might feel a little bit differently about it than I do, but coming from me, I don't think there's quite enough in this base box to really have enough depth or meat to the different card plays that you can do in the game. So it just kind of feels like the cards that come out in the buy row aren't very variable, don't vary too much in what they do and the different effects and abilities, and the combat is a little bit slow in this game for me. And I think, over time that'll come with additional expansions that'll add more and more cards to the game and therefore add more variability. But I am really, really liking the core mechanisms in this game and how things push and pull differently. The cool thing that's different about this deck building game versus any other deck building game is that your character, well, I guess it's kind of like the new Marvel game, deck building game that came out, where you have a character that starts on more of its like teenager side or human side, and then as it evolves or gets better, it actually morphs into the Power Ranger side of the card, which is really neat. The other thing I like in this game too is when you purchase cards, you don't have to necessarily put them right into your discard pile. You can choose, based on the color of the card you buy, you can choose to attach it to one of the sides of your Power Ranger suit, or your main villain card, depending on if you're on the Power Rangers or the villain side. But you can attach it to one of those sides based on the color, if the color matches, to then give it a special ability or effect or special power. So then in future turns, when you are spending your energy resource, you can trigger these effects to either deal damage or do different culling out cards out of your hand or deck, or drawing additional cards and really trying to build that engine around what equipment or what items you are attaching to your Power Ranger or your villain. So it's got a cool ramp-up effect as well, because the better and better you get, not only do you morph into your Power Ranger side, but you can get your Power Ranger weapon, you can morph into you can get all of your Zords together and create the Megazord or the Dragon Zord, and you can really ramp into these really, really cool, powerful characters in this game. But right now, like I said, it just feels a little bit slow of a ramp up, a little bit slower paced than I would like to, and a little bit not too much variability in the game yet. But I guarantee with maybe 1 or 2 expansions that the Power Rangers deck building game will definitely be one of my favorite deck building games, maybe of all time. So I'm very excited about that, but also take that with a grain of salt, because Power Rangers is one of my favorite IPs of all time, just from growing up. As I was a young kid growing up, I grew up with the Power Rangers, so excited for more content from this game. All right, moving on into another game we played. More recently, we actually just got this played today, actually. So this game is called Cursed Court. So Cursed Court, I'm just going to preface this with, it came out back in 2017. So this game is only 4 years old, and you don't hear anybody talking about it. There's no discussion of Cursed Court at all. I looked it up on BoardGameGeek.com, and it's ranked over 3,100. It's like 3,130 ranked game of all time. So apparently there's 3,100 better games out there than Cursed Court, but holy cow, is this game underrated. This is my purchase of the month, if not purchase of the year so far. I found it at one of my local game stores at a discount. It was a used copy, I believe, and just re-shrunk wrap, but I think it was slightly used. But anyway, got it for a good deal. I've heard great things about it, so I just had to pick it up and give it a try, and wow, was this a surprise hit with me and our group. So basically in Cursed Court, it is essentially almost kind of like a Vegas betting style with poker chip style game. The theme really doesn't come through that great. The artwork is a little bit off with the theme, I think, as well. It's not very crazy good looking, other than the components being fantastic. I mean, the board is kind of plain as well, but the poker chips are really fun and cool, and the crowns are really neat. But basically in this game, it is a mix of not only bidding, but some hidden information that you only know, and some of your opponents know hidden information that you don't know. Based on that, you are betting on these different locations on the board to see what cards, or try to you can bluff too, but basically what cards are going to score. And based on what cards are scored, or the number of cards of that type that are scored, if you were the highest bidder on those spots, you get points for that. So you're looking for, maybe 3 of these advisors in an L shape, or 3 advisors in a row or a column. If those cards are flipped over at the end of the round, you get to score X amount of points for that. Or, if there's so many of one particular advisor that gets flipped over at the end of the round, like if there's 1, you only get 1 point. If there's 2, you only get 2 points, but 3 is 5 points, and 4 of a kind is 8 points. And 8 points is really high in one round of play. So things like that you are betting on. But what makes the game really fun and unique, like I said, there is some hidden information in the game. And the hidden information is at the beginning of every season. There's 3 years that you play over with the 4 seasons: spring, summer, autumn, and winter. And you place 1 card in between your left opponent and yourself, and 1 card in between you and your right opponent. And each opponent basically has a left and a right card beside them. You can look at that information from the cards to your sides, and all of your opponents can look at information from the cards to their sides, but they can't look at any of the other cards. And as you bet your first bet, then basically like in Texas Hold'em fashion or poker fashion, you flip over another card face up in the community pile that everybody has that information. So you have the information of the 2 side cards and the information from the overall flop or the pool or the turn or river card, like in poker sense. But you don't have the information that your other opponents know. But then again, your opponent to your right and your opponent to your left both know what card is in between both of you too. So you have some partial information that you're trying to get people to you're trying to bluff certain moves to get people to bid higher than you, because if you get bid out, if they bid higher than you, you get your poker chips back from that spot, and then you can actually go after a spot that really does matter. If you were able to kind of bluff that you knew one card existed that they didn't know, and they're trying to kind of take a long shot bet at them thinking that that's the right move based on your decisions. So just really cool. It sounds more complicated than what it is. It really is not complicated at all. A very light, almost filler weight, but I would say just slightly above a filler style game, where it's got some just hidden elements and bidding and bluffing, and just a really cool, like almost twist on poker style game. So that is Cursed Court. It's definitely an excellent game, and one that I would highly recommend giving a try. The next game I tried over the past week was also with just me and my wife. We just played a 2-player game of Mandala Stones. Mandala Stones, a brand new abstract game to the scene, was a lot of fun, was really neat. I wouldn't say it was like a completely like out of the park, blew us out of the water, excellent game, but it was definitely a great game. We're typically not really into abstract games very much, but for an abstract game, we had a whole lot of fun with it. Basically, I don't have a copy of it because actually my brother and his fiance own the copy that we had tried. But in Mandala Stones, you've got all of these stones all over the board, like what the name describes, and all these different stones of different colors. And you've also got these artist cylinders with different symbols on top of them as well. And on your turn, you are basically just moving one of the artist cylinders into a different zone to basically pick up Mandala Stones around that artist symbol. If that artist symbol is next to another artist, you cannot pick up anything in between two different artists. And also, any of the stones that are left empty without any artists next to them, you can pick up. And you have to decide which stone you're going to start with, because each additional stone you pick up around where your artist was placed, you have to place on top of that. So you're creating the stack of stones in particular color order, which really matters because you are taking those stones and placing them back onto your player board at the end of your turn. And based on where you place them on your player board, there are 5 different scoring zones. The 5 different scoring zones are really unique. Some of them are based on how tall your different stacks are on your player board when you do decide to score them. Some of them are based on what colors are positioned where, and so on and so forth. So the different scoring opportunities are really variable and really fun to try to go after and just maximize the most amount of points you can. So that's basically the first half of the game. The other thing you can do on your turn, rather than picking up more stones, is to take a scoring action, which is basically you just take one color stone, it's all of the same color, off the top of all the stacks, and whatever stacks you take that same color stone from are the stacks you score. And then, like I said just a little bit ago, you score what the different point values are on the different stacks based on what their requirements are. So it was just a really fun abstract game, really light, quick. It played very, very fast at 2-player and was fun. It was a great game. And if you like abstract games, if you like a little bit of crunchiness and some kind of more thinky strategy with different ways to score, then Mandala Stones is definitely the game for you. Like I said, not as much for us. We're not super into abstract style games, but this one is definitely one of the better abstract games that we have ever played. All right, and the next game I'm going to talk about is another game that actually the same brother who owns Mandala Stones owns this game as well. So I don't own a copy of it. I will put it on the screen here, but this game is Exodus Proxima Centauri. Exodus Proxima Centauri is a space epic game that came out back in 2011. The revised edition came out in 2012. My brother does own both editions, but we tried the OG, the original Exodus Proxima Centauri game first. And we played it a couple times and loved both plays of it. And now we're excited to get the revised edition to the table with some of its expansions to see what the differences are. But we definitely wanted to try that original version first, just so we can compare the differences between the two a little bit later on here when we can get that to the table. But Exodus is definitely, like I said, it's just a space epic game where there's a lot going on. It is kind of deemed as Twilight Imperium light. Twilight Imperium, another space epic game that takes about 6 to 8 hours of play. This game, Exodus, plays in about 3 hours, so it plays in about half the time, and it has a lot of similar feels to it from what I hear. I haven't played TI3 or TI4 myself, but my brother has, and he says that it does have a lot of similarities to it, and we hear that it has even more similarities to Twilight Imperium as you add the revised edition with some expansions. So we're very excited to give that a try. But basically in this game, you are building up planets, you are building up populations on planets. The populations can give you bonus actions. On your turn, you are playing out one card in front of you that'll give you a specific action, like going to the bank for additional income, or buying a technology on the tech tree board, or building more ships, or moving your ships, that sort of thing, because you are basically trying to expand your forces throughout the galaxy, take over these planets so that at the beginning of every round you are gathering these resources and generating this income for your overall army. And you are using that income, like I said, to build out technologies and these different weapons and defenses, and building more ships and just building up your forces. And the more planets you take over, and also the more combats you win against other players, the more victory points you get. At the end of 7 rounds, the player who has the most victory points is the winner. So victory points are pretty tight in this game because you only get 1 or 2 points per battle that you win, and you only get a couple points per planet that you're taking over, depending on how difficult or where the planet is positioned within the galaxy. So you are just really trying to control as much as you can with trying to hunker down on some of your forces and protect what you own. And if somebody's coming at you, you can kind of form alliances and try to push against them to just ultimately try to get more victory points than anybody else. One of the funnest things in this game for me is actually the tech tree. The tech tree in this game is not like anything else I've ever seen. It is not like it doesn't have a base requirement to all these different technologies before you can upgrade to the higher end technologies. You can jump as high as you want on any of the tech trees to the best technology in basically the first or second turn of the entire game. You could get one of the best technologies right off the bat, but why there's a negative to doing that is that if you are building up some of the lower tier technologies as you go throughout the game, then the higher end ones get discounts based on what other technologies you've purchased beforehand. So if you are really trying to maximize your dollar to the best of its ability, you're trying to get maybe some of the lower tier or mid tier technologies to help you out the best it can, to also generate some discounts for future technologies that you buy when you're buying the more higher end technologies. So, and money does get really tight in this game too. When you're generating money on these planets, it's tax free. You just get the money straight to as income to your board. But when you're gathering the other resources, I forget what they're called, but there's green resources and red resources. Green helps with technologies, red helps build ships. But when you're gathering those to your board, those get taxed. And you're actually taxed money off your board in order to even gather those. So money really kind of dwindles down pretty quick. Resources are hard to come by. There's weapons of mass destruction that you can build these nukes on your planets and set and fire them off and try to hit a certain range away from your planet, and also roll dice to see if you can hit those planets and how many of the people on the planet you can hit. These different weapons of mass destruction are really cool because there's one that can blow up an entire planet, which is extremely hard to get, but if you can pull that off, that's just so devastating. There's other ones that completely diminish all the resources on one of your opponent's planets. Or there's another WMD that will actually take out an entire population of people on whatever planet you target. And like I said, with those populations and taking out resources, all of them being so tight, that is very crucial in the game and a really major component of the game. But also, I know in the revised edition, I hear that you can build up defenses against that as well to try to intercept these weapons of mass destruction coming at your planet before they get to your planet, to stop them from doing that. So that is really neat. The only other thing I wanted to mention in this game too, there's just so much going on. I'm just glossing over the surface, and I'm just kind of gushing about the game because I really do enjoy the game a lot more than I thought I would. But the other aspect that I really enjoy is the card play in this game. You get a hand of set action cards, and each action card has an action at the top, and then it has a reactionary action or like a reaction at the bottom of the card. So whenever you play a card, you get to take the action of that card, and then it goes to the next player around the table, and they can play a card for the action as well. Well, after it goes around and everybody does their action, then in turn order, you are allowed to take population off your home planet. And for one population, you can trigger the reaction on your own card, or for two population, you can trigger the reaction on one of your opponent's card to take an additional action on that same turn. And if you take one of your opponent's reactions on their card, that blocks that reaction from them being able to use it for a cheaper cost. So you can actually go around and block other people's reactions on their card just so you benefit from it. So that, I just found that to be really cool. What a brilliant idea. I've never seen that done before. It's so awesome, so much fun to not only decide what you're doing with your own cards, but also being able to block and take additional actions off of your opponent's cards as well. And yeah, I think I'm just going to stop talking, because I've been just talking too much about this game, and I'm sure I'll talk about it a lot more in the future as we get the revised edition to the table as well in the near future. So anyway, that wraps it up for today's video. I hope you all enjoyed. As always, if you like the content you see here on the channel, please consider subscribing. We really do appreciate every subscription we get. That's what keeps us going. Definitely like the video if you like the content as well. And until next time, have fun gaming.